What happens when trust is betrayed in the quiet corners of a seemingly peaceful farm? In this tense story, step into the calculated mind of Sam's stepmother, Mrs. Hahn, as she plots with her daughter to poison Sam while the brave Officer Lee is away. The plan unfolds flawlessly at first. Friendly smiles, warm tea, and innocent conversation. But just as danger peaks, Lee returns unexpectedly, leaving the sinister plot hanging on a knife's edge. Will their dark scheme succeed, or will timing betray them? Watch closely because nothing is as it seems. Don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling tales like this. The morning sun filtered through the thin curtains of the elegant yet cold living room, casting long, angular shadows across the polished wooden floor. Mrs. Hahn sat in her favorite armchair, her posture perfectly straight, exuding an aura of calm precision that masked the storm of calculation behind her eyes. Across from her, her daughter perched on the edge of the sofa, a mixture of curiosity and excitement flickering in her gaze. "Today is the day, my dear," Mrs. Hahn said softly, her voice a gentle murmur that carried an almost hypnotic quality. "When Lee's away at the station, we will visit Sam. We'll make it seem casual, innocent, just two women coming to see how the farm is doing. But beneath that, everything will be different. Do you understand?" Her daughter nodded eagerly, her lips curling into a small anticipatory smile. Mrs. Hahn leaned forward slightly, the light catching the sharp angles of her face, and whispered conspiratorially, "We must be precise. Every word, every gesture, every smile, it must be flawless. Sam trusts us. She trusts me more than anyone else. That trust is our advantage. One slip, one moment of hesitation, and everything crumbles. But if we do it right, well, she won't see it coming." She paused, letting her words settle in the tense air, watching her daughter's expression carefully. There was a gleam of understanding there, but also the unmistakable thrill of danger. The plan was delicate, and both of them knew it. They spent the next hour going over every detail, each element of the visit meticulously rehearsed. They spoke of the gifts they would bring, the precise manner in which the tea would be prepared, the way they would laugh and move so naturally that Sam would feel completely at ease. Mrs. Hahn instructed her daughter on subtle techniques of manipulation, how to lean just enough, how to tilt her head innocently, how to use casual questions to gauge Sam's mood and reactions. It was almost like watching actors preparing for a critical scene in a play, but this was a far more sinister production. As the morning wore on, the two women fell into a quiet, intense focus. The ordinary sounds of the house, the distant hum of a refrigerator, the soft ticking of a wall clock faded into the background. All that remained was the electricity of their shared intent, a calculated energy that buzzed between them like a live wire. Mrs. Hahn looked at her daughter and allowed herself a brief, satisfied smile. She remembered, we must appear warm, kind, affectionate. Sam will never suspect anything. She will welcome us with open arms, and in that moment, everything changes. Today, the balance of power shifts, and it all depends on our skill. Outside, the light shifted subtly, brushing across the walls of the room as though marking the passage of time. Yet inside, time seemed suspended, each second heavy with anticipation, and the dark promise of what to come lingered silently in the air. By mid-morning, the farm lay bathed in golden sunlight, the fields stretching lazily under a sky so clear it seemed almost unreal. Mrs. Hahn and her daughter arrived just as the wind rustled the leaves along the driveway, carrying with it the faint scent of hay and earth. They wore carefully chosen smiles, their expressions radiating warmth and familiarity, the kind of easy charm that invited trust. Sam, unaware of the undercurrent of malice beneath the pleasant greetings, came running from the farmhouse, her eyes lighting up with genuine delight. "You two came to visit," she exclaimed, her voice echoing across the quiet courtyard. Mrs. Hand's smile widened, serene and flawless, while her daughter followed in step, exuding an innocent cheerfulness that masked the tension coiled tightly beneath her skin. They were ushered into the kitchen, a space that Sam had always kept cozy and welcoming, with sunlight spilling across the wooden counters and the scent of fresh bread lingering faintly in the air. Mrs. Hand moved with deliberate grace, her gestures measured, pouring tea into delicate porcelain cups with the precision that made every motion seem effortless. "I brought something special," she said lightly, her voice lilting as she placed a steaming cup in front of Sam. "Just a little treat for our hard-working friend." Sam accepted it eagerly, unaware of the calculated significance of the act, while Mrs. Hand's daughter hovered nearby, ready to step in with perfectly timed comments and distractions to keep Sam relaxed and unsuspecting. Conversation flowed naturally, or at least it seemed to. Small talk carefully sprinkled with laughter that felt genuine enough to disarm any suspicion. They talked about the farm, the weather, trivial household matters, all while the sinister undertone of the visit remained hidden beneath layers of politeness and sweetness. Each sip of tea, each nod and smile was a small move on an invisible chessboard, carefully orchestrated to bring them closer to their goal. Yet, the air was taut, almost vibrating with suspense, as if the house itself sensed the danger lurking quietly behind the familiar faces. Sam chatted freely, oblivious, while the mother and daughter exchanged subtle glances, tiny signals rehearsed countless times, measuring reactions and adjusting their plan with each passing moment. As the visit continued, Mrs. Hand felt the intoxicating thrill of control. Every carefully measured word, every innocent laugh brought them one step closer to the unseen objective. And yet, lurking at the edge of her consciousness, a small nagging awareness lingered, an unspoken possibility that timing could betray them. Somewhere beyond the kitchen walls, the farm awaited the return of Lee, whose sudden appearance could disrupt everything. For now, the scene seemed perfect, sun-drenched, serene, and deceptively ordinary. But beneath the calm surface, tension coiled like a spring, ready to snap at any moment, leaving the outcome of their darkly meticulous plan hanging by the thinnest of threads. Just as the conversation lulled, a sudden noise from the front gate shattered the delicate bubble of calm. Sam's head turned instinctively toward the sound, and in that instant, a shadow of unease flickered across her face. Mrs. Hahn's hand paused mid-motion, the teacup hovering precariously above the saucer, and her daughter stiffened beside her, the rehearsed warmth of their smiles faltering for a fraction of a heartbeat. From the distance, the familiar figure of Lee emerged, his boots crunching against the gravel, carrying the authority of a man who had long kept the farm and its inhabitants safe. The crispness of his presence cut through the heavy, suspenseful air, instantly transforming it into a tension so thick it seemed almost tangible. Mrs. Hahn's eyes narrowed imperceptibly, her mind racing to recalculate every step of the plan that had been progressing so flawlessly. The meticulous choreography of tea, laughter, and subtle gestures, the very sequence designed to ensnare Sam, suddenly felt perilously close to collapse. Her daughter mirrored her mother's unease, a faint tremor running through her hand as she adjusted for posture, trying to maintain an air of nonchalance that was slipping like sand through their fingers. Sam, meanwhile, looked between them and Lee, sensing, without fully understanding, that something had shifted. A chill crept along the back of her neck, an unspoken warning that the ordinary afternoon had turned into a delicate precipice where one wrong move could tip everything into chaos. Lee's eyes scanned the room with instinctive caution, noting the almost imperceptible tension in the air, the way Mrs. Hahn's smile flickered just slightly, and the subtle way her daughter avoided direct eye contact. There was a pause, pregnant with possibility, as if the farm itself was holding its breath. Mrs. Hahn's mind raced through contingencies, the clock ticking louder in her imagination than it ever could in reality. Could she still execute her plan despite Lee's unexpected arrival, or had their carefully laid scheme already unraveled? The uncertainty coiled around them, electrifying the space, each second stretching impossibly long, carrying with it the weight of choices not yet made. Outside, the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the farmhouse, mirroring the dark ambiguity that had settled over the kitchen. The tea sat untouched, its steam curling upward like tendrils of a threat left unresolved. Sam's expression remains open, curious, unaware of the danger that had almost reached her lips. Mrs. Hahn's calculated composure masked the tension raging inside her, her eyes briefly meeting her daughter's in a silent, loaded glance that held questions, doubts, and the faintest glimmer of fear. And then, in the silence that followed, the outcome of their dark design hung suspended in the air, unresolved, uncertain, leaving a question lingering like smoke. Would the scheme succeed, or had Lee's timely return foiled it before it even began?
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Lý Tử Sam Review. Vậy là tập phim của chúng ta ngày hôm nay đã kết thúc tại đây. Nếu mọi người thấy tập phim ngày hôm nay hay, hấp dẫn thì hãy cho mình xin một nút like, một nút chia sẻ và để lại bình luận ở dưới video nhé. Đặc biệt là mọi người hãy bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh để nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các tập phim sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Lý Tử Sam Review. Trong tập phim ngày hôm nay thì mẹ kế của Lý Tử Sam đã lợi dụng lúc cảnh sát Ni không có ở nhà để đến trang trại chơi và tìm cách hạ độc Lý Tử Sam. Liệu rằng âm mưu của bà ta có thành hiện thực hay không? Cảnh sát Ni có về kịp thời để cứu Lý Tử Sam hay không? Tất cả sẽ được hé lộ vào các tập tiếp theo sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại vào các tập tiếp theo. Bye bye!